part of that manifesto for Azimio, especially the one that dealt with housing. And my formation then believed in this housing agenda. They believed in it. I know the late Baba, I had many meetings with him. And if there was something that whenever we sat down to speak about, he was so passionate about, was the conversation about housing. And these so-called leaders, at that point, they were for housing. When they were seeking your votes, they told you that they are going to sort out housing for you. But then something happens. And because some of these decisions, like how to implement housing, is not an easy decision. It's not a popular decision. Then they wake up and they realize that, you know, we are no longer for housing. And then they start fighting the same housing that they were for. And you know, what I believe in is that no one has the monopoly of knowledge on anything. You know, if you look at our constitution, housing is an Article 43 right. Article 43 rights are unqualifiable rights. These are rights not Hinga or a political party that put in their manifesto. These are Kenyans themselves who went out there and bequeathed themselves those rights. Now, I think the bigger question that we should be asking today, 16 years down the road since we got the new constitution, what have we done about the attainment of those rights? And I know that there is a Supreme Court ruling that talked about that the enjoyment of these unqualifiable rights, the Bill of Rights, it talks about them being, they must be realized progressively. And so I want to paint to you what progressive means. When you look at the government that was run by the late President Kibaki, while they may not have been so forthright about setting a target in terms of the number of housing units they were going to do, they also tackled the issue of housing. Because unless you don't live in this country and you don't see the mushrooming of informal settlements everywhere, where a study by the World Bank shows that for 2017, titled Unaffordable and Unavailable, it said that 65% of all our urban dwellers live in slums. So we can disagree on how to solve the problem, but we can't bury our heads and say that we don't have a problem when 65%, and I'm sure that number is almost now 75% because that was 2017. And the situation, it's not that it has gotten better. So when you look at President Kibaki's government, they undertook a housing program. And for the 10 years, they were able to do 822 units, 822, which are here in Soweto, Kibera, phase 1. And then the successive government was the Jubilee government, of which I was part of. Same position. And you all know that I was not living here in Kenya. For almost 20 years, I was living in South Africa. And I was called back home to come and lead this program that I so believed in. Having been born myself in an informal settlement and knowing what it means to live in squalor, what it means to live in indignity, where you have to pay to use a toilet, where you have to pay more to get water, which is a basic right. So I believed in that program. And my leadership then, we had a target. Our target was 500,000 homes. And we worked very hard to attain our target. But unfortunately, the funding mechanism, because for you to address a systemic problem that has built up for over 60 years, you have no choice but to look for money to throw at that problem. You can't prophesy over it. You can't lay hands on it. You can't wish it out. There are no two ways about it. And that's why I believe that in his wisdom, that then my former president and my former boss, I am not from the built environment. I am not an architect. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a quantity surveyor. I am a banker. And I believe in his wisdom. He thought, hang on a second. I think we have enough architects. We have enough ideas on how we can build these cities. But the question, the elephant in the room was, how do you fund it? And I think that is really the question that is there. All these rights that we bequeathed ourselves, how do we fund those rights? And so I was brought in, given a mandate of doing 500,000. Unfortunately, because of a myriad of issues, one, we had these protracted court cases that denied us an opportunity to be able to get the funding framework. And then there was other things, we had COVID, we had all these other issues, but we attained some numbers. So out of 500,000 homes, we did about 2,500 units. Now, it may not have been the number we wanted, but surely that is progressive, because we built from 822. Now we've done 2,500. But under this administration, in just over 3 years, we have close to 300,000 homes under construction, with many of them being completed, and Kenyans of ordinary walks of lives getting into those homes. And so I feel very strongly about this thing, because we are gambling with people's lives. We are radicalizing our people. And sometimes I ask myself, what really is the challenge? You see, on Boma Yangu now, you don't even need to know the PS for you to own your own home. Everything is in the power of your hands. If you have a phone, and if you don't have one, you can go to Huduma Center and you can get in there and start your own home ownership journey. So on 1 minute we are promising you heaven and telling you, when you are electors, we are going to do A, B, C, D, and housing being one of them. And then you spend the next 5 years fighting the very same thing that you say that you're going to help Kenyans be. That level of hypocrisy must be called out. We stand as unpopular as the decision, to establish the housing levy as it was. Nobody likes to pay more taxes than they should. But we also heard from Kenyans, their biggest fear was, we have seen this movie before. We have seen where you come up with these grand ideas, and these ideas end up being channels for stealing money from the public. And we promised Kenyans that under this housing program, you're not going to have scandals. That is why His Excellency the President, when we were setting the design of this program, he said, look, Hinga, we have a program that is very unpopular right now. And that is fine, because that is what leadership is all about. And sometimes leadership is not about telling people what they want to hear. It's about taking them where they must be. Because this country, surely, 60 years after independence, we can't have 70% of our people living in squalor, in a place where they pay to use a toilet. And these are working people, by the way. These are working people. These are not lazy people who just refuse to work. These are people who are educated. Some have more than 1 degree. Some of them work harder than we do. And they didn't choose to be born where they are. So this idea of playing games and emotions with people must be called out. And so let me say something, because I am very proud of what we have achieved. But it's not for me to say it. It is about the lives of people that are being changed every single day. You know, you take a lady like Jerusha, a single mother who lived in Mukuru for all those years. Today, she's a homeowner at Mukuru. But the people who are fighting the program, because you know, the beauty about housing, it's either we do it or we didn't do it, because you can see it. You know, unlike where we say, no, my manifesto is I want to double the GDP. You know, then you can get different professors and all of them, they can come with different figures about GDP, because GDP, you can't really see it. Of course, sometimes you can feel it in your pocket. But housing, it's either you did it or you didn't do it, because as long as you can see and you can count. All right? So the naysayers, people who are bankrupt of ideas, you know, people who have embraced mediocrity, what did they say? They looked at that Jerusha when we were moving her into her house. And because they want to take away the attention from the fact that this is an ordinary person who is a hardworking mother, single mother, wakes up every day, makes a living from selling mutumba, pays rent every month. And today, she's being told that you're going to move into your own house that has running water, you have your own toilet, you have power, you have gas, you have internet. Your children walk to an ECD and a primary school. They have a basketball court, and they can't believe that. So what did they do? They started playing in soccer net Ngware. Walianza Ngware. So what did they do about this innocent lady whose only wrong she did was to dare to believe in a program? Oh no, they say this lady is a broker from Sijui. She was in Kisii somewhere. You know, this is the lady from Embu. They even said she's from Kisii. And that became the news. The news was not about an ordinary Kenyan whose life has been changed. So when we go back to this article that I saw this morning, it's trending. I don't know whether it was this morning or where it was. It was yesterday, but I saw it this morning. I was very disappointed, because these are actually, the people who are saying these are young people. They're young people. These are the people that we are looking forward to handing over the leadership of this country, and reduce home ownership to that decision boils down to your chicken. I mean, anyway, so maybe there is space for stand-up comedians. Then another one that I must address, you know, is where other leaders now, and these ones I can associate with them because I come from that part of the country. They've gone and radicalized people from that region, the so-called Murema. And I saw a young governor of a county that is one of the bread baskets of this country, whose backbone is agriculture, who is part of the ruling party until they bolted. And when they were part of the ruling party, they talked about, we want housing in our county. Why? Because in my county, people are subdividing arable land. They're subdividing arable land. And a lot of it is being converted to real estate. They're uprooting coffee bushes and tea. And they were worried about what has happened in Kiambu, for example. You can see Kiambu, which also was a breadbasket of this country. We've replaced all our arable land with structures all over the place. So 1 minute they were for it, but because they deem that for some reason that this agenda is unpopular, then they change their mind. This county that has close to 20 markets. The people from that community, because I come from it, my own mother sold nyanyas from Karatina market to Mwembe Tayari in Mombasa. My own mother did that. So they are generally, they're traders. And let me tell you how dangerous some of this rhetoric is, because it sounds popular now. But what you don't realize is that you're alienating a whole community away from the rest of Kenya. And you actually think that for some reason, you think that those people from that community are only confined to one region. You know, we were in Kuria in Migori County, a place called Kehancha. We were launching a market there. We have Kehancha and Timaru. And I was so shocked. When we went to the market, as we were waiting for the president to come and lay the foundation stone, in that market, I had so many people speaking a language that I understand. They're speaking Kikuyu. I don't know how, you know how far Kehancha is from here, or from the so-called Murima. It is the farthest end near the border of Kenya and Tanzania. They've gone all that far because these are people who send themselves to go and look for opportunities. And in this country, you have the liberty to live anywhere you want. Yet, you come and you talk about only a section of the country, forgetting that your own people. So what is going to happen to those people who are in Kehancha that are from your community? Are they not part of your community? Look at Gikomba, good people, the biggest open air market. I'm sure most of you have been to Gikomba once in a while to go and buy stuff there. As you walk, sewer, mud. But you have over 200,000 people waking up every day and they eke a living from that market. We go and we actually received a delegation from the traders themselves. And they said, look, can you do something about our trading spaces? Because this situation is untenable. When it rains, our goods are destroyed. When the sun shines so hot, we have no cover. And yet, they told the president, ulisema kazi ni kazi. And every job matters. How come this job of ours doesn't matter? So we listen to them and we agree that they will move, create space, we build for them, and then they come back. That day, leaders from my region, who have actually branded us as traitors, they've called us traitors. They said that, no, why are you, kwa nini unanyanyasa watu wetu? But they forget that when those markets are going to be completed, and by the way, I'm sure you've seen, and I want to encourage you to go to Gikomba and see the transformation that is happening in that place. When it is completed and it is dignified, who are the people who are going to be operating in those spaces? Your own people. Because we're not going to replace those traders with others. So I just felt that we need to be a bit serious as a country. We have to be serious as a country. Let's disagree on ideas. You come and tell me that instead of the housing levy, I have this idea that we can look at, or go sell that idea of what are you going to do about that right that Kenyans gave themselves. But don't come and talk about chicken, I don't know, on the 13th floor, and blatantly lying. And also, you people don't call them out. They are saying, oh, these houses, he talked about some housing in Funyula. You know, that development in Funyula, I'm very proud of it. Okay, I have visited it several times. It's going to be one of the most beautiful estates to live in. And the people of Busia are taxpayers, and they also deserve to live in dignity. You know, you're on that 13th floor where they're saying you cannot be able to take your chicken. It's probably the most prized. You have the best views because from the 13th floor, Seaport, you can see it. Port Victoria, you can see it. Do you know how much people pay? Do you know how much people pay to wake up in the morning and just draw your curtains and you just see water? Do you know how much people pay? I don't need to tell you. Just go and check. What are the prices for? Go to Nyali today and try and buy a house. How much is an acre? Go to Diani and buy a house. Why is everybody scrambling to go and buy a house in Diani? Surely it's just a body of water. But is it that a hustler, a boda rider, a mamamboga, are they lesser Kenyans? What is the problem with them waking up in the morning on the 13th floor in Funyula and drawing their curtains and seeing Lake Victoria? Or was that reserved for some few people? So I think for far too long, we've allowed these people to get away with, telling Kenyans nonsense, telling Kenyans, a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. Bring your idea, because this is our country. It is our country, us, collectively. And by the way, even those houses, don't even say thank you. Because what are you thanking the government for? Don't thank the government. You voted the government to be able to advance your own rights that you said that you have given yourself. On Monday, this past Monday, there was a new prime minister in the UK, Andy Burnham. You must have received it because I got a 411 on Monday. And this is what that 411 says. He says, Andy Burnham pledges to end homelessness in Britain as his first act as a prime minister in the inaugural address after meeting King Charles. This housing conversation is not a Kenyan conversation. Go look at President Trump's manifesto. He was talking about building affordable housing. Go and look at, let me tell you a funny story. Do you know how many presidents have, and I don't know whether this is the right thing to say, but let me just say it. Do you know how many presidents have approached our own president saying, si utudonetia watu yako, so they can come and show us how to build houses? I can tell you at least five. At least five that I know of. Why? Because while everybody else is talking, and while our program is not perfect, at the very least, we are doing something. Something that the whole world is struggling to do. And so when you hear that our president has been christened the global affordable housing champion, it's not because we went and made an application somewhere and says, I must see you, whatever. No. In May, we had our second Africa Urban Forum. I'm sure most of you were there. We had over 38 ministers from African continent that were here. And they were all in awe when they saw what Kenya has done. And because a lot of people don't believe in this country. And I don't know how you call yourself as a leader, and first of all, you don't believe in the country. And as I've said, let's disagree on ideas. That's fine. Let's disagree. And let's put ideas on the table and let Kenyans decide whose idea is better. Because every 5 years, Kenyans get to choose. And it is, I think, one of the things that they are struggling with is that there is a government that put up a plan and is implementing that plan. So, this country, we have very few natural resources. We were in Azerbaijan. I noticed some of you were there in Azerbaijan. This country has so much oil and gas. They're talking about affordable housing. We don't have gas. We don't have oil that we are selling. The only thing that we have, the best asset we have, is ourselves. We the people. We the people. We don't have a lot of natural resources. So we gotta believe in ourselves. And we have got to start thinking about leaders that have ideas and not those who are bankrupt of ideas. Because it's only bankruptcy of idea where 1 minute, it's like a slogan, or affordable housing because it is popular when you're looking for votes. Then you come back and you say, no, sijui if I can get my chicken up there, then affordable housing is not for us. So I thought, let me address those before I read my statement. This statement, as I said, is largely in response to this article. We are not here to muzzle the fourth estate. You play such an important role. And we respect the fourth estate, but also we're just hoping that you can also be fair, and balanced. And I know sometimes bad news sells better than good news. Maybe the best thing is if you really don't have any bad news to report, you might as well not write anything. If you feel that you don't want to talk about the good. But when you weaponize data, data and to push a certain narrative, because you're trying to look for scandals, you can't find scandals. I think it is wrong. So the State Department for Housing and Urban Development has noted the article published in the Sunday Nation of the 19th of July, 2026 on refunds under Bomayangu Voluntary Savings Scheme. And the underlying word there is voluntary. Okay? The State Department appreciates the coverage of the affordable housing program and the article's inclusion of the department responses, because they were fair to us and they sent us the question. And I worked so hard on those responses. I think it is the longest response I've ever done. I don't know, John, was it 19 pages? Yeah. So we responded. And then sometimes you wonder, if you respond, they will say that this is what the State Department said, but they still continue to push whatever narrative they wanted to push. If you don't respond, then you're going to spend the next 3 weeks responding. So, saa zingine hamuko fair kwetu sisi nyinyi. However, the article's central figure of Kenya shillings 2.56 billion in refunds, and put that refunds in quotes, rests on a labeling convention in the platform's records that does not mean what the article takes it to mean. So this is a nomenclature. It's semantics. What on our platform we call refunds is actually not refunds. Okay, and maybe that's part of our mistake. So before the figures can be read correctly, it is necessary to explain how voluntary savings on Bomayangu actually works. So on Bomayangu platform, which is the platform that every Kenyan who wants to buy an affordable housing unit, which is a unit that has now prescription. You have prescribed interest rates by law. By law. In other words, that affordable house by law has become your entitlement. it is yours by right. Forget about these people who are telling you, oh, when we form government, we are going to take away those units from you, and we are going to sell them and refund those people who have whatever. You know, I mean, anyway. So this housing is an entitlement, and depending on your income, depending on your level of income, you have an entitled interest rate that is fixed, and that is no longer debatable. It is your right, and you must claim it as your right, no longer a favor. Please understand that. No favor. And unless another government comes into power, does public participation, and changes those rates remain your entitlement. The same way, when I signed my contract, my employment contract as a PS, I was given a salary and an entitlement. Part of my salary comes in with a mortgage scheme. I have a mortgage scheme as part of my contract. That mortgage scheme is it was at 5%, I think now it's at 4%, fixed. Okay, for the lower of when I retire, I just turned 50. I know most of you think I'm 40, and that's okay. I just turned 50, and as a state officer, my retirement age is 70 years as a state officer. Okay, so I have an entitlement, of which, by the way, I have taken. Okay, I've been given a certain amount funded by taxpayers, and have been given a mortgage of 4% fixed for 20 years or when I retire. Our only mistake that we have done, according to the naysayers, is that we have taken that same entitlement that I have, the same entitlement parliamentarians have, the same entitlement the judiciary have, the same entitlement civil servants have, and we made that entitlement available for Kenyans, funded by the same Kenyans. That is the only mistake. So, but there is a process under which, and we're trying to simplify it, you know, we want you to be a homeowner. And for us to do that, we had to address two big issues. And hear me out, because there's been a lot of issues about, and even lawsuits. I mentioned the other day that I have about 85 lawsuits. Not against me personally as Hinga, but against this program. Majority of it is on public land. It's on public land. They're saying, why are you taking public land and converting it to homes that are going to be owned by individuals? That is the fundamental question they're asking. So it is important that I respond and I tell you why we did that. Because we must fault ourselves, because maybe we communicated once in 2023, then mukatukimbiza mbio, nikaanza kusweat, nikahepa. So now the only information that is out there is what these fellows are saying. Why is land? Why are we converting public land? We are converting public land, my dear Kenyans. First of all, that word public, what does it mean? We are holding that land for you. It is for you. As long as you're a Kenyan born in this country or even outside, but as long as you're a Kenyan, that land belongs to you. The government does not have land of its own. We are holding it in trust on your behalf. That's number one. But number two, you all know, because see, we live in this country, all of us, you all know that one of the most expensive commodities in this country is land. Yes, no? Land is very expensive. Very, very, very expensive. Just here where we are in Upper Hill, there is an acre of land that went for 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. 1 acre for 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. So can you imagine if someone pays 1.2 billion Kenya shillings and they put up a block of apartments on that 1.2 billion Kenya shillings? They have to, privately, they have to build the roads themselves. They have to bring in the power themselves. If you take the cost of land, the cost of construction, the cost of infrastructure, how many people do you think, given the incomes that we have, can be able to afford an apartment in Upper Hill? How many? If the cost of land on its own is 1.2 billion, very few. In fact, our data shows only 3% of the entire population can be able to afford. And that is what is problematic with our housing challenge. You know, there was a gentleman at the height of the finance bill of 2023 from Eldoret, and you carried them in your news because it was very hot then, you recall. And he said, nani hana kwao, nani hana kwao. That's what they said, nani hana kwao. So if you don't take away the cost of land in the equation, very many Kenyans will never get to own or to live in a decent house. So the first act this government has done was to take away the cost of land and make sure that that cost is passed on to you. So let me give you an example. You know, we're building houses in Diani. Okay? It is called White Beach in Diani. Those houses, that land is very prime. We're also building houses on Bofa in Kilifi. That land is front row beach. Bofa in Kilifi is very expensive land. So outside this program of affordable housing, where we have zero rated the cost of land, very few Kenyans can be able to own. But because we took away the cost of land, it means that whether the land is in, first row beach, or you come here to Lower Kabete, where it is very prime, the cost of the unit is the same across the country. So you don't need, those millions of shillings for you to own that home. How can that be wrong? We have made sure that those who want, if you want a front row beach house, you can get it for the same price, 3 million. The cost of bringing the infrastructure, the board is paying for it. And this is, I forgot to introduce, this is Joe Mutugu, is the CEO of the Affordable Housing Board. So the board is paying for that infrastructure, and it's not recovering that cost from you. They absorb it. So that is how we have brought down from 11 million average. And our housing, you can get a house, a studio unit for 640,000. My friend, 640,000 is cheaper than a car. That lady, Jerusha, that I spoke about, she today lives in a house whose value was 640. But even 640, if you don't provide mechanism of you paying for it, it's still going to be expensive, because not many people have 640,000 somewhere. And that is where the housing levy came in. It helps us to finance you as a Kenyan, the same way I am financed by your taxes to get a mortgage at 4%. We created a scheme where for social housing, you pay only 3% fixed. For affordable housing, 6% fixed. And for everybody else, 9% fixed. And fixed is important because when interest rates go up like they had gone around 2022, remember interest rates had even reached 20%. So if you have a variable interest rate, the higher the interest rate goes, it means your mortgage goes up. Under our program, it does not matter what happens in the market. Interest rates may go to 30%, your interest rate remains 3%. That is what this program is all about. And that's why everybody out there in the world is marveling and saying, how did you do it? Come and show us how to do it. Because these are things they're battling with. It is complex to be able to put everything together, from land, from infrastructure, to how you finance the home buyer. And you finance everybody. So everybody in this country, if you earn 20,000 and below, you have a scheme. If you earn 20,000 to 150, you have a scheme. If you earn 150 and above, you have a scheme. And you're supposed to buy within your scheme. So me as Hinga, because I belong to the third category, there is no way I can buy a social housing unit, because my salary is certainly greater than 20,000. I can't buy an affordable house. I can buy for my helper. I can buy for my drivers. I can assist them. But the ID that is going to be associated with that house is going to be the ID of the homeowner. So I think that is also important to be able to clarify that. Now, for you to own a home, we created Boma Yangu platform. This Boma Yangu platform was created to try and remove the shenanigans that exist, because we said we all live in this country, so there's no need of trying to hide. We know what if the powers to allocate those houses was down to Hinga or to Joe, what will we do? We will start allocating to your friends, sijui girlfriend, sijui relatives, na wale watu wanakuona nyuma ya tent. It becomes, we introduce another level of corruption where for you to own those same houses, you must pay to own them. So we were deliberate about creating a platform where the powers to get that house, we removed ourselves from it as much as possible. That's why we created Boma Yangu platform. That Boma Yangu platform, which you can go *832#, or you can go on your eCitizen account. Okay, log into your eCitizen account and search for the word Boma, and you will be taken to that platform. And by the way, where all these houses, you can spend the whole day just scrolling down to see all the houses that are under construction. You'll be able to see it, because it is up to you to choose where you want to live. You don't have to buy where you came from, because in this country, one of the rights that is protected is the right to ownership of property, and you can own property anywhere. So you go to Boma Yangu platform, you register, and then you start the homeowner ownership journey. But as the houses are being constructed, and because there is a deposit, which we have brought down from 10 when we first did the act, it is now at 5%. we created a platform for you to pay the deposit without having to go to a bank, or coming here, Arthi House, where there is a cashier where you pay. That's why you can pay, you go get 200 shillings, you can go and deposit it in your wallet. And I'm getting now to the gist of this issue about this article. That wallet, you have two wallets on Boma Yangu. The first wallet is called savings wallet. Under the saving wallet, that money is yours. The interest rate, because we have hired fund managers and we have a custodian bank, because that money is not sitting in an account here in housing. We have a custodial bank. KCB is our custodial bank. I think we had three of them. We had KCB, I think we had NCBA, and we have housing finance. They are our custodial banks, three of them, for the voluntary scheme. They keep that money because it is your money when it is in the savings wallet. And the interest rate that is earned is your interest rate because it is a saving product, not different from ZD or this money market product that are there in the market. And then, so you can continue saving, okay? But let's say, for example, school fees needs to be paid and you don't have enough money to pay school fees. You can go to your savings wallet because it is yours and withdraw the money together with the interest rate accrued and pay school fees. And then when things get better, you can continue saving on that wallet. And we will release the data for you to be able to see what is actually happening. So it has been designed with that in mind, that it is your money. For as long as it is in the saving wallet, you can do whatever you want to do with that money. You can leave it there to earn interest. You can withdraw it, all of it. As a matter of fact, one of the assignments that Joe has is engaging with one of the telcos to develop the product to mirror what you have in ZD. You see, money market products, you withdraw in 3 days. Ours here, we have given ourselves up to 90 days. Okay? ZD, which I have put in money myself. If I have excess money on my M-Pesa, I take it to ZD. Why? Because it earns interest. And I can withdraw it now if I want. That is what we want you to have. It's a saving wallet. It is your money. You can be able to see how much interest has accrued, and you can do with that money whatever you want. Then you get to a place where you have now identified a unit that you want. So let's say, for example, you identify Shauri Moyo or Johanna Ngeno estate as where you want to buy. Let's say you've identified a 1-bedroom unit, which is 1 million Kenya shillings. So, kwa hesabu, what is 5% of 1 million? Sini? 50,000. Ama? Sini 50,000. We have given you, allowed you to save pole pole because you may not have 50,000 all at once. That is what the platform has been designed for. So if you have 50,000 and you have identified the 1-bedroom at Shauri Moyo and it is available, you do something else. Not come to the housing board or whatever on Boma Yangu platform. You move your own money. You move it from your savings wallet to what is called a deposit wallet. Okay? Now you've moved the money from savings to deposit. Now, when you move it to deposit, that money you don't have a lot of control like you had where? Under the savings wallet. Because now you have an intention to buy a house. Okay? But you can still be refunded that money. Because when you pay the deposit, then we go through what is called an allocation process, which is largely in the system. Because when you submit all your documents and you pay your deposit, there is a timestamp. There is a timestamp on the system that shows when did you fulfill we call it, when did you go past the gate? Once you pass the gate and that unit is available, you are issued with an offer letter. Okay? If you accept the offer letter, now that money that was your deposit now becomes the money for the board. Okay? All right? So up until you accept by signing the offer letter, that money is still yours. When it is under the savings wallet, you can do whatever you want to do it. You can withdraw that money, you can replenish, and you can save whatever you want. When it goes to the deposit, that money is held until an allocation is done. Now, there are scenarios where we could be the three of us here that have applied for the same unit. Okay? But since if it's only one unit left and the three of us have applied and we have paid the deposit, it boils down to who paid the deposit first, because it is a first come, first serve. And that is why, and please, my dear Kenyans, I want you to know, and I will demonstrate to you by numbers. Don't listen to the noisemakers out there. The silent majority are buying those houses. They're buying them. Because why would you want to go and buy land and build a house? Take you 7 years to build your own house. Well, there is a house here where the cost of land is zero. And there is a nice mortgage that is your entitlement. Okay? So silent majority are buying. But take this scenario where there were three of us and there was only one unit left. You will then now, only one offer letter would be issued by the board. The two of us, say Kaplich gets the offer letter, Joe and myself will get a regret. Okay? So, and then now you have a decision to make. What do? Do you move your money from your deposit wallet back to your savings? Because under the deposit wallet, it's not going to earn interest. Okay? You can move it back to your savings wallet. Then there are people who, because I am angry that I didn't get the unit, I say, ipotele mbali, watch I withdraw my money. 100%. You still have the right to do that. So I took time to explain to you what these two wallets are about. So this article that says Kenyans are withdrawing money, what they are calling withdrawal or refund is not a refund. Let me give you the numbers because I don't want to read this whole statement. Let me land. Out of 2.5 billion that the article correctly stated were monies that had been refunded. That's what they call it. 1.62 billion. That is 63%. 63% of that 2.5 billion money that they're calling a refunded, is savings that were applied to people that bought the first housing scheme in Park Road. So those who allocated money in Park Road, they took the money from their savings wallet and put it in the deposit. They were allocated, and then that money is gone. I hope you're following. Okay? So it was your money, but you have applied it towards a deposit. So 63% of the so-called money that is being withdrawn is money that went to people who bought Park Road. Now, then there is another 139 million, which is 5.5%, that has gone for other units now outside Park Road. Okay? Meaning that 69%, 68.6% of the so-called withdrawals is money that has gone towards a deposit for a house, for a new homeowner. Then we have 803 million, which is 31.4%, which is money that now has actually been withdrawn. As I said, you can withdraw, school fees is due, you withdraw. And People also withdraw when they get spooked. When they hear politicians say, oh, that housing program, we will kill it when we come in. People panic and they withdraw the money. Okay? They don't want to lose their money. Now, what this article did not do, what did it not do? And they had the data. And that's why I said, I know negative sales. And then maybe you don't want to credit us. But what is the bigger story that was not told? So, we have 5.47 billion shillings that has been saved voluntarily. Now, you know, savings for a home is one of the hardest financial disciplines an ordinary household undertakes, because it requires consistency, it requires humility to pause when life demands it. The responsible reading of the Bomayangu data is that Kenyans are doing precisely this in growing numbers, with growing balances, and using an exit facility that exists because government built the scheme around the realities of ordinary income rather than in spite of them. The State Department invites analysis of the program on the complete data, which it has provided and will continue to provide. And will remain available to the Nation Media Group and all media houses for further information. So, but the bigger story is, within the same period of time where they are saying that there were 2.5 billion withdrawals, we had 5.8 billion savings. So which is the bigger story? And the reality is, we have 5.4 billion saved voluntarily, and out of the 5.4 billion, only 800,000 has been withdrawn. 800 million has been withdrawn from the program. So we felt that this article, while it relied on data, because it relied on data from Auditor General, and by the way, we call the Auditor General ourselves. I wrote to the Auditor General and we asked the Auditor General, come and audit us outside the statutory audit. We wanted a special audit. We wanted a special audit because we also want to know, are there areas where there are areas of weakness? And of course, the Auditor General identified areas of weakness and they put it in writing. But you know, the reality is, and this is important to say, the minute you invite the Auditor General, that report does not belong to us as a State Department. So whether it's a special audit, that report is submitted to Parliament. And you saw that I was called before PAC to go and address some of the issues the Auditor General identified as weaknesses, because there are weaknesses in the system. We can't sit here and bury our heads and say that this is a perfect program. They talked about titling, and we are working very hard to make sure that by the time the house is ready, you will have your own sectional title. So I think that is the end of my remarks. And I hope that I have shed light. And if I may summarize, is we have more Kenyans. In fact, I don't know, I forgot to read that statistic, because this program now has, we have over 1.2 million Kenyans that have registered on Bomayangu. 1.2 million Kenyans. And you know, why did they register themselves? Because for you to get one of these homes, you have to register yourself. You have to. There is no other corner somewhere. You can't, at you want a PS, no, I can't help you. You can't see Joe here, he won't help you. You must register on Bomayangu and start the home ownership journey. So at the moment, what is the big news? The big news is that we have more people registering every day, and they are saving towards their home, the more they see ordinary Kenyans owning their homes, and they're building confidence in the program. I believe as we build more confidence, right now, Joe here is under very tight timelines. We want by the end of this year, we want the Affordable Housing Board to have brought to completion 45,000 units. 45,000 units. But think about it. It's 45,000 units against a demand that we can talk of 1.2 million. So we have a long way to go. And we will take the money from the sale and we're going to plow it back and build more units because the demand is higher than the supply as we sit. So I don't want to go beyond that. I know you may have some questions, but I don't know whether Joe has ever addressed a press conference. So maybe let me give him 1 minute so that at least you can also hear his voice. You can come here. He's the new CEO of Affordable Housing Board. Joe, then I'll come and answer your question.
Thank you very much, Bona PS, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this press conference. Most of the key points we wanted to make have been made by our PS. The one thing which I want to emphasize to Kenyans is that the affordable housing program is real. As the PS has mentioned, we are going to complete 45,000 units between now and December, and another 15,000 between January and June next year. There are very many Kenyans who want to own homes under the affordable housing program. In fact, one of the biggest challenges which I am dealing with right now, which the PS alluded to, is that for the Mukuru housing estate, the demand is extremely high. We've had 24,000 applicants for about 13,000 units in only one estate. And the reason why we had so many applicants in that one estate is because the project is complete and the houses are on the ground and people can go and see them. Now, as we continue to complete the upcoming units, we expect a similar level of demand. So we are urging Kenyans, if you are interested in owning homes under the affordable housing program, this is the time to apply for those homes. Those homes are real. Don't listen to the naysayers, don't listen to the politicians. That house, no one can take that sectional title away from you. A sectional title is just like a title deed. Once it is in your name, even if a government changes, you continue owning that home. So my message is to Kenyans is ignore the politicians. These homes are real. Apply as soon as you can, because once these houses are complete, as I mentioned earlier, demand tends to be very high. Thank you very much.
Okay. Maybe just before he leaves, so that it doesn't come back again.
Yes.
James from the Standard newspaper. Maybe is it possible to know when are the homeowners starting to get sectional title?
The processing of sectional titles is a continuous process. We've already started the process. Some of the people who are homeowners in some of our developments already have sectional titles. So the process, as the PS mentioned, is first you open an account on Boma Yangu, you put a deposit, you apply for a home. Then once you get your home and you complete the payment, then you'll get your sectional title. So it's a continuous process as people go through the home ownership journey.
Do we have some who have already gotten them?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Also, one question from Peter from Nation Media. So by the time the audit was concluded, there's a figure of 788 million that is referred as funds to contributors. Of that amount, how much was actually funded and how much was in the deposits account?
So the refunds for voluntary savings is actually 800 million. So this is the amount which the contributors to the scheme actually took out of the fund as their cash.
Actually, the Affordable Housing Board took over Boma Yangu sometime last year.
Yes.
So at the time of transition, the refunds amount was 718 million.
Mhm.
So I'm just asking, of that amount, how much did you take up as part of the deposits, and how much had actually been given back to contributors?
Okay, I understand your question. I don't have that data right now, but we are happy to provide that data at a later stage.
Okay. Any question for me? I believe maybe we've covered everything comprehensively. Yes, Peter.
Yes. Two questions from me. Yeah? So I would want to understand where the deposits are being held. Since they are outside the Bomayango ecosystem.
There is a custodial bank.
Yes.
So we have appointed 3 parties independent. We have a custodial bank where the money sits, and that bank is regulated by CMA in terms of how they administer that money. We have a fund manager. Okay, fund manager are the ones who decide where they invest your savings. They can put it in money market products. They can go and take it to bond trading, but they tend to go for low risk. There could be they could also put them in equities, and we can see that the equity markets are doing very well at the moment in Kenya. So when you go to the Nairobi Securities Exchange, you can see people have really made a lot of money in the recent past. But equities also can be very risky. So it is a high risk, high reward game. So we tend to be a bit conservative with the fund manager. So the money is sitting in a trust account.
Okay. Actually, was that the deposits, not the savings? You say that the deposit is not invested in trust.
Yeah. So the deposit sits in our. We also have an account again with our fund administration. Okay. So we do have, and that's a separate account from the custodial account. Yeah, and that is with KCB.
Yes.
Yeah, we have an account with KCB for the deposits.
So when I'm looking at the net assets of Bomayango, that does not include whichever money is in deposit account.
I don't know how you look at it, and I don't know which data you rely on.
It's true because you see when before that money is applied towards
home ownership,
it still belongs to
the
client. So we do not account it as part of our net profits
up until we draw down on it, and then it goes and pays for the home ownership. Okay.
So the second question was there's a report we launched around March, the one done by Grant Thornton, which was saying that there were projects of about 240 billion. Out of that number, the profits to contractors was something that
No. I mean, and in fact, because you wrote on that, it is it.
You can respond after. So to date, you say there are around 300,000 houses under construction. So probably you can provide us with a value. What is the value of this project? How much is the profit to contractors?
Okay, let me first of all tell you, and it's a good question you ask, and again, it was a mistake on that report. Okay, and it was, but anybody who knows how to do analysis of financials, you can see it is a mistake. And I know you're very smart, and you'll have known that it was a mistake, because what they did is what they called the only mistake in that report is they used the word net profit as opposed to gross. So they had not removed the taxes. Okay. And that is how you concluded that developers are earning profits of 30%, which caused us a lot of pain. But it's okay because we still have an opportunity to explain. This program, before we embarked on it, we invited Nairobi University, Technical University of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta University, Architectural Association of Kenya, IQSK, which is the institute for QSs in Kenya, IEK, the chapter for all engineers in Kenya, and National Construction Authority. And we gave them a task, because the question was, this money that we have received from Kenyans so painfully, how best can we be able to stretch that money so that we are not losing, and we're not losing that money, and we're getting value for money? And we asked them independently, can you go and build the cost from what is called first principles of costing? Okay, first principles of costing. And they disaggregated every component in the BQ and built it using market rates. And they arrived at a figure where we have even grossed up profit of 15%. 15% profit for the contractor. And we arrived at a figure of 40,000 shillings per square meter for programs under our what is called a contractor model. And then for the bigger developments, like Ngong, which is a big development, Makongeni is a very big development, Jogoo Road, very big development, Lower Kabete, very big development. For those big developments, we have a different model, which is called C plus F, which is a contractor plus finance. So we pay them what is called deferred milestones. But because they have to go and raise money themselves and not just bring a certificate, there is an extra 2,000 shillings per square meter that was built in. So our contractor model, it is 40,000 shillings per square meter all in, including the profits of the contractor. For the C plus F is 42,000. Now, in the past, what were we contracting at, so that you can actually see value for money? Same houses. If you take, for example, before we embarked on that, houses were being constructed at 55,000 per square meter, 60,000 per square meter. We came and put a ceiling. In the past, when people tender, there is something which is called engineer's estimate. That engineer's estimate in the past was where a lot of corruption was hidden, because this is in engineer's estimate as per our people that have designed. So when we do our BQ, we can tell you what we think the cost is going to be. That figure is supposed to be guarded, but in the past, contractors will go look for these engineers, give money, and then that figure is released. You know, and so we will get phone calls, please, PS, please, whatever, what is the engineer's estimate? We wanted to remove those shenanigans. So how do you remove that shenanigan? On all our tenders, and I dare you take all our tender documents, we have actually disclosed our estimate. And we've given you that as a ceiling. So what do you think is happening at the moment? And I can tell you this because I'm the PS, I'm the one who signs every procurement file. That one I cannot even outsource it. When you put 40,000 per square meter, what do you think your fellow bidder is going to price it at? So first, you can't go beyond 40,000, because you go beyond 40,000, you fail, because it's a ceiling. So everybody is playing below 40,000. So, Mboro, while as much as we have 15% profit, the real profit, because these people have to, because it's a competition, you know. So if you take the full 15% profit, you know you're not going to be number one in pricing. So people are reducing their profit. So the average profit for affordable housing is actually somewhere between 10 and 13%. So if you look at the tenders, when because they return them and we read the prices open, okay? When you take that, it is less than the ceiling, which is 40,000, which is one of the ways in which, we have ensured that we don't have, this thing of, oh, show me what is the engineer's estimate, then nikuone kando. No. So everybody knows what the price is. Okay? Right? Any other question? Laban.
Umeeleza kuhusu hiyo mifuko ya kuhifadhi na kuweka deposit kwa sababu ya kulenga kupata na pia umeeleza kwamba kuna uwezekano wa kuwa na hofu wakati mpinzani wa mradi huu wanaweza kusema pengine wakiingia katika serikali watakuwa zote na watapoteza kama hivyo. Na je, katika hiki kipindi ambacho kumekuwa na pingamizi kutoka kwa upinzani na saa waliposema tukiwa na serikali mpya, kama uliingia kule basi tutachukua hela zote pengine tunisha na kama, je, umeweza kupima huko kujiondoa ama kutoa hela ni kiwango gani katika kipindi pengine cha miezi mingapi tangu iliposema, kwa sababu unaangalia takwimu pengine unaweza kupima?
The simple answer ni la hasha, hatujapima. Lakini ni kwa sababu hiyo data tuko nayo, labda ni tunaweza tuangalie wakati haya matamuzi yamesemekana, tuende tuangalie kama kulikuwa na any effect. Okay? Lakini wacha niseme hivi, haki ya kuwa na nyumba ni haki ya kibinadamu. It's a human right. Na sisi kama Kenya ni mojawapo ya nchi ambazo tumeweka sahihi kwenye mpango ya dunia na kongamano la UN Habitat. Tumesema ya kwamba mambo ya kuwa na nyumba za heshima ni haki ya kibinadamu. Hapa katiba yetu imeandika kwa kinagaubaga ya kwamba hiyo haki sio haki ambayo unapewa na serikali. Hiyo ni haki ambayo sisi kama Wakenya wenyewe tulijipatia, na ni haki ambayo haiwezi chukuliwa. Labda sasa twende referendum, tuseme tulisema tunataka nyumba, hatuzitaki. Na kwa sababu katiba inasema hivyo, na ukiangalia katiba kwenye kipengele cha I think article 20, hiyo kipengele ya article 20 ni the only section ya constitution ambayo nimeona wale ambao waliandika hii katiba waliweka vizuizi hata kwenye mahakama. Enda usome article 20 ya constitution yetu. Unajua kuna ule independence ya mahakama, independence nimesema nini? Uhuru wa mahakama. Okay? Na ni kitu ambacho kimetiliwa maanani sana. Lakini ukienda ukisoma article 20 inasema kama wewe ni judge na kuwe kuna kesi mbele yako, na hiyo kesi inahusu maswala ya kipengele cha 43, article 43, inasema tutakueleza vile ambavyo utakata uamuzi. Inamwambia jaji kama yale maswala yako mbele yako ni kuhusu vile watu wengi watapata hizo haki, toa uamuzi wako kulingana na vile Wakenya wengi watapata hizo haki. Kwa sababu inawezekana ya kwamba ukipatia wengine haki, kuna wengine wanaweza sikia wamedhulumiwa. Okay? So when you read article 23 ndio inasema. Article 25 inaenda zaidi, inasema ya kwamba hata mahakama haiwezi simamisha serikali wakati inaweka mpango sambamba wa kuwezesha Wakenya kupata manufaa ya hizo haki za kibinadamu. Kwa hivyo hizo tu ni kelele za chura bana. Hizo ni kelele za chura, na wanasema kelele za chura haizuii ng'ombe kunywa maji bana. Kwa hivyo hao wenye wanasema wakikuja kwa hii serikali watakunyang'anya, wanakunyang'anya kama wao ni nani? Hii sio ati favor tunakufanyia. Hapana, hii ni haki yako. Sawa.
Pengine kumekuwa na masikitiko kutoka kwenu. Ndio maana tumeketi hapa pia.
Yeah.
Walipozungumza na wanapozidi kuzungumza, na kama ulivyotaja awali kwamba wakati ulikuwa unachukua mradi kutoka kwa rais, ulikuwa unaarifiwa kwamba haukuwa na umaarufu sana miongoni mwa Wakenya. Si kwamba kuarifiwa, hata tayari walikushafanya uchunguzi na tafiti fulani ambazo zilionyesha si maarufu wakati huo. Kwa hivyo inafaa kuwa jambo zito sana kama si maarufu miongoni mwa Wakenya, alafu upinzani unatumia pengine kauli kama hizo kuwasukuma Wakenya wasiingie hata zaidi, na kama wapo ndani waondoke, basi mnakuwa katika mizani fulani na Wakenya haikosi kama wamewasiliana na nyinyi, kwa sababu wako kwenye tovuti yenu na wanaweza kuongea na nyinyi.
Yes.
Je, kumekuwa na mawasiliano kama hayo, na jinsi ambavyo pengine mwawapo wahakikisha?
Mengi sana na vile tutafanya sasa. Sisi unajua kwanza kwa sababu ya venye umesema kumekuwa na changamoto especially around mambo ya kumekuwa na uvurutaji, hii housing levy ilikuja wakati bei ya maisha, gharama ya maisha imekuwa juu. Kwa hivyo tunaelewa, na ndio sababu sisi tunasema kwanza, sisi kwanza tunatoa heshima kwa ule Mkenya yoyote ambaye hivi sasa anatozwa ushuru ili tuweze kuleta huu mradi, na ndio tukasema ya kwamba tumeweka mikakati mingi kuzuia uporaji wa mali, na ndio unaona sisi we are very defensive about this program, kwa sababu tunajua kwa ile changamoto ilikuwako, kama kunaweza kuwa na mahali ambapo watu wanaiba, wanapora pesa, ama mnapata ya kwamba ile value for money hampati, itatuletea shida. So yes, ni ukweli Wakenya wengi wamekuja kwetu wanasema sasa haya ni mambo magani? Okay? Na ndio sababu sasa tumeamua kutoka sasa kuendelea mbele, kwa maana ni mradi ambao tunajivunia, na wakati unaona Mkenya wa kawaida akitoka kwenye hali ya ufukara anaingia kwenye nyumba, sura inabadilika, hata magonjwa yanapungua, sisi pia tunapata ile raha. Kwa hivyo tutakuwa tunawasiliana na nyinyi sana kama waandishi wa habari ili tuweze kuwajulisha, lakini unajua bado wewe uko na haki ya kuandika chochote unataka, lakini ujue sasa kutoka sasa kwenda mbele hatutawaacha uandike vile unaandika na sisi tusikuje kuambia Wakenya ukweli, na ndio sababu tumewaita hapa leo ili tuwaambie ukweli wa mambo, ya kwamba ile ilisemekana ya kwamba Wakenya wengi ni kama hawana amani. Unajua ile article iliandikwa kwa ujeuri, ile ni kwa sababu inataka kusema ya kwamba Wakenya hawana imani na huu mpango, kwa sababu wewe kama hujui ukweli wa mambo, ukiona watu ambao wanatoa pesa, wewe utaenda kuweka pesa yako huko, na kama sisi kama wizara hatuwezi kuja tusawazishe hayo maneno, tukinyamaza ile habari hiyo ndio itakuwa ukweli kwenye vichwa vya watu. Kwa hivyo tumesema sasa tukubali tena, na sasa kwa hivyo sisi tuko hapa na hapa na nyinyi.
Kama Wakenya 65% wanaishi katika mitaa ya mabanda, ama hata na zaidi kama ulivyosema.
Yes.
Ni pengine mambo na imani na mradi itakuwa na Wakenya hawana imani kwa kiasi fulani.
Unajua huu mpango unauliza swala nyeti. Unajua ile pesa ambayo tuna ya ushuru wa nyumba ambao tunatoza inajulikana, si ndio? Inajulikana, iko kwenye bajeti yetu, na kwa hivyo huu mpango ni mpango ambao tumeanza. Okay, na sasa ukiangalia, wacha nikupatie example. Na unajua mimi ushindwa sana. Kwa nini si wanasema chema cha jiuza? Lakini kwa hii mambo ya nyumba, sijui kwa nini chema ajijiuzi bana, sijui tutafanya nini, kwa sababu wacha niwaulize, mnaona huu mpango hapa Soweto Kibera, nyinyi hamjui hii kazi ni ngumu sana. Hii kazi ni ngumu sana kwa sababu kwanza lazima uende ukae na wale wananchi pale Kibera. Lile shamba liko pale, na by the way, wacha niseme kwa sababu Nation, nyinyi si adui zetu, kwa sababu juzi mulikuwa na article nzuri sana imetusaidia pia, na ndawaambia saa hizi pale Kibera. Uliona juzi wakati tulianza phase 3, kwa sababu phase 1 ile ilifanywa na hayati Kibaki, nyumba 822. Sasa sisi tumekuja tumefanya huu mradi saa hizi ambao uko karibu kumalizika. Si mnaona hizo picha, si mnaziona hizo pale Kibera, nyumba takribani 4500. Kabla zimalizike tukaenda phase 3. Ile phase 2 kabla watoke pale ilikuwa ni vuta ni kuvute, you know, ilikuwa ni mvutano. Sasa hivi hiyo phase 3 walikuwa nauliza mtakuja lini, kwa maana hakuna mtu ambaye ako na akili timamu anataka kuishi vile wale wanaishi. Hakuna mtu ambaye anapendelea unaishi kwenye bedroom pale imewekwa, wewe ni mzazi, uko na pasia tu kitambaa umeweka, watoto wamelala wengine chini huko na nini, uko na watoto 7 na kwenye kibanda kukinyesha, mvua kuna furika ndani ya nyumba. Nobody wants to live like that. Ukitoka hivi nje sewage, hakuna mwenye anapenda kuishi hivyo. Kwa hivyo wale wakaaji wa Kibera wenyewe uliona, na mimi sijui kwa nini haiku make news, walijivunjia mabati yao, mbao zao, wakajichukulia wakaenda wenyewe. Haukusikia mahali ambapo polisi wamekuja usiku wamebomoa hizo nyumba. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Sasa mimi nashindwa mbona hiyo sio news. Lakini wacha niseme news ile mzuri ambayo mlisema, kwa sababu hii ni factual. Mlisema juzi kodi zimeanza kwenda chini, na wale developers ambao walikuwa na develop, na sisi hatuna vita na wawekezaji wa biashara, hatuna vita hata kidogo. Lakini ngoja nikwambie ukweli, na uniwie tu radhi kidogo niseme kwa lugha ya Kimombo so I can explain very well. Let me tell you, good people, why status quo is dangerous and status quo will never fix our problem. Let me tell you why. You know, we measure return on rental on something we call rental yield. A yield. Ile yield, unachukua what income you get from rent, you divide it by the cost of the development, you get a percentage. That is called a yield. The average yield in Nairobi is between 5 and 7%. Hapa Kilimani, you know, hizi nyuma unaona pale hivi about 5 to 7%. But do you know which is the most profitable housing class? It is slum. The slum units are the most profitable business, I can tell you. One, the people, and I don't know what word to use, you know, you have the whatever word you use for people who go, they take land which is not theirs and they build houses. So first of all, they didn't pay for the cost of land. Then they put a very indecent unit, mabati, 20,000. Then they charge you 3,000 shillings a month to live in that kibanda. So let's work out the numbers. What is 3,000 times 12? It's 36,000. It means they're going to make 36,000 shillings, okay, from one tenant, sindio, per year. But what is the cost of that kibanda? 20, maximum 40. So what is, if you take what is 36, divide by 20,000. That is why that business is so lucrative. And by the way, let me tell you, I'm not going to mention them, but the majority of the politicians you see here screaming, and I know them, you know, they are slumlords. Because if you have some extra money as a businessman, you try and look for where you get the best return. Now, think about it. Okay? Which is why I'm saying this is a very difficult job, because who are we going against? We are going against people who are riding on the backs of Kenyans. They're riding on the backs of Kenyans. You've gone and taken land which is not yours. If you go to Mukuru, they've taken land that belongs to private company called Orbit Chemical. If you come to Kibera, they've taken government land. You go to Kiandutu in Kiambu, it is not their land. So they build, they didn't pay for the cost of land. Then they put a unit, they tried, and yata hiyo mabati wanachukua ile the cheapest. Ikiangukuwa na kijiti hivi inatoboka. You know? Then choo inatengenezwa huko mbali. Alafu wanakulipisha kwenda choo. Can you imagine? I mean, what better business can you be in than being a slumlord? You charge someone to use a toilet. And then listen to this. Because these are some of the truths, and that's why I was happy with that article from Nation. So, if you take that person who has put up that unit, they don't pay taxes. Because that is not formal income. There is no invoice. Ukicharge ule mtu wa pale slum, kuna invoice unapata kweli? Hakuna. Okay? Then they tap into illegal power. So Kenya Power, it's costing us to produce power. Wanachukua hiyo power, wanakuwekea kwa nyumba, but they don't say, because I have gotten free power, because this power I'm not paying Kenya Power because it's an illegal connection. I'm going to charge you free. Guess what they charge you? They charge you 140% more than what Kenya Power charges me. Then they don't provide you water. There's no piped water in that shack that they've built for you. They sell water to you. How much do you think they sell water to you at? They sell it to you at 172% more. So think about it. And then that's why I said, we can disagree on how to solve problems. But let me ask you, the people who live in the informal settlements are not living there because they want to. It's because life has been hard. They earn very little money. So you are poor, and then life decides to punish you more. And that is what we call the penalty of poverty. You are poor, and then life punishes you more. And I cannot believe that there is any better way of addressing. There is no any other bigger social injustice than that one. So this conversation, as we discuss, there is something deeper that we're solving. And you cannot say that I'm not my brother's keeper. And if you don't do anything, let me tell you, if you live in a big house in Karen and you have a high wall, you think you're protected. As at the rate at which we were going, even the land outside your house, somebody one day is going to come and build. And then utasema serikali's idea. Or where was this government when this happened? So anyway, nimechukua too long to answer that. Yes.
Yes, so in brief, naweza kusaidia for our inaugural audience.
Haya, nitasema hiyo ya mwisho. Ngoja tumalizane na hii ya kimombo kwanza. Anything else? Any other question? Okay. We done, Parting shot.
Have you ever taken these guys around the affordable housing for subsidizing?
No. And John, and Joe, we have to change that. Okay? Let's change that, because but also I want you people to be homeowners yourselves, so that as you're writing, you're writing from your 13th floor huko Funyula, looking at if you can get your chicken. I don't know about the chicken. Maybe we may have to come up with a policy of I don't know. Anyway, on a lighter note.
Yes, we have actually taken some of them. They are here.
Let's take all of them. Yeah, there's some of them maybe, they don't have the right platform to whatever. Let's take all of them.
Yeah, in various regions anyway.
In various regions. Let's do that, because as I said, this is our country. We have no other country. So we can disagree on ideas, and that's okay. And by the way, we are not muzzling you. Okay, what we are French.
We should have something special for the journalists. Special package for those.
Sasa nikifanya hivyo mtasema Hinga bribes journalist. Okay. French, eh? Okay. Umuthi twi haha tondu ni tukwendaga hena article irari ngatheti-ini ya Sunday ya Nation iria yaugite ati andu aingi ni mararuta mbeca mubango-ini wa affordable housing. Koguo umuthi ni tukwendaga guka nigetha tumwire ma iria iho na tukwendaga also kuoya kamweke gaka kwira andu aitu ati nyumba ici ri tuciakite twinawe in mind we ordinary Kenyan uria ukiagira